Tonight on Our Race Reality, we are examining the unique and challenging situations interracial families deal with each day.
I said, I don't know I don't know how to raise a black child. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Members of our Fox family join us to share their personal stories.
You guys were all that I have left. Don't make me cry.
From growing up to raising a child, we are continuing the conversation now. Welcome to Our Race Reality. I'm Mike Jarek.
And I'm Alex Hawley. In the coming weeks and months, we're going to dig deeper into all of the issues that go into our race reality. So many conversations are currently happening, from debates over policing to the future of statues and brand names being brought into question, and even a new focus on days like today, which is Juneteenth, where we celebrate when slaves in Galveston, Texas first learned they were free, which is 2 years after it was announced.
The Emancipation Proclamation, 2 years after. Well, tonight we are focusing on the issues and questions that face interracial families each day in our country. Tonight, we are joined by three members of our Fox 29 family to tell us their stories, their daily reality. Sue Serio, Thomas Drayton, and Shayna Humphreys are all with us to share their stories tonight.
And we want to start off by having everyone tell us a bit about their reality. Sue, we've watched you and Billy raise Nia on this show. Talk a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, I've been on Good Day Philadelphia for well over 20 years, and my daughter was a baby, as we all know, when I started, and my husband worked there too for 12 years. So people knew that I was married to Billy, and I often said my life was an open book, but I didn't always talk about everything like race. And I did reveal on Good Day Philadelphia a couple weeks ago that I had a very big anxiety attack when I was pregnant with our daughter. We were living in Buffalo at the time, and I said to my husband, how can I raise a black child? What am I going to do? It's kind of the reality in me. And he said the best thing that he could have said, and it was his truth and our truth: let's just raise a child.
A perfect,
and that's what we did. And
comment from Billy.
Yeah.
You're a lucky woman. Thomas, tell us a little bit about your reality.
Yeah, you hear the story from Sue, and you're going to hear the story from Shayna as well, and you say, check, check, check. You've gone through all those experiences, the discrimination, the name calling, the questions. It's really how you pick up the emotions and move on where you're at in your journey, and also those emotions moving forward. In my household, we didn't talk a whole lot about race. I think it's, because my parents were from two different worlds here, but one thing that they taught me was a very powerful message, and that was the power of love. Because inside the home, you're not reminded that you're different. It's once you step outside, the world tells you that you're different. So you need a tool moving forward, and that tool for me was the power of love. But I tell you what my parents went through, and you're going to see it in just a moment. You never really realize until you get older and you're able to process everything.
Right. Thanks, Thomas.
Wow.
Well, Shayna, you've also been open about your experiences, your reality as well.
Sure, and I have to echo a lot of what Thomas just said. I think it's a very similar experience that a lot of biracial people have. I too am mixed. My dad is black and my mom is white, and we did talk about race in my house, but there were a precious few years early on that I think all mixed race families enjoy, where my brother and I, we didn't notice, we didn't think it was strange or any different that our parents had different skin colors. You can see that they look different, but it doesn't strike you as any more interesting or significant than different hair colors or eye colors. And like Thomas said, it's when you go out into the world, when you start going to school, you realize that race has turned into such a huge part of the way we all interact with each other, your daily interactions and the identities we build for ourselves. So it's a journey.
This conversation is just getting started, so we will hear more from all the people you see on the screen here and their personal experiences right after this.
Coming up on Our Race Reality,
I was excited to have my family.
Thomas Drayton takes us behind the scenes with his family to understand the struggle his parents had raising an interracial family. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Our Race Reality Mixed Messages. Tonight we are speaking to members of our Fox 29 family about their experiences in interracial families.
So Thomas, we want to hear more about your parents and their courageous story.
Yeah, with all the emotions I was going through, I was trying to think back and say, wait a minute, why didn't we talk about race growing up here? My mom's from Germany, my dad's from Trinidad and Tobago, and I think it's because they weren't able to process everything and fully knew what they were about to face.
I can't imagine what you and Mom went through. I mean, here you are, two different people. You grew up, didn't see a whole lot of white people. Mom grew up, didn't see a whole lot of black people. It had to be difficult to know exactly what you were getting into, let alone talk about race.
Race was very difficult. Those times was hard. It was hard. It was a rough time. A lot of people did not approve of biracial. A lot of places I could go with your mother, and traveling on those times was very hard. I remember going to the South, and we were refused a table to sit. So to prevent that, I stayed in the car so she could get good service.
And here you are,
Yeah.
actively serving your country, and you had to sit in the car. Did you try to shield us from all that?
Yes, we kept you guys away from these things. So Mother and I, we went through a lot of things that we didn't tell you guys, you know? To get some place to rent, it was very hard. She had to explain that her husband is black. So those times was rough. They were very hard.
Did you realize how hard it would be?
I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it until someone would show me that they dislike that I'm in this relationship, the looks, getting spit on, shame on you, or all these names, you know, so-and-so lover and stuff like that. Yeah, I realized that some people just didn't like it, and they were verbal about it.
Did you have any regrets, Mom, looking back?
I was excited to have my family, because that's all that I had left. Since my family disowned me, so you guys were all that I had left. Don't make me cry.
What did your family tell you?
They were ashamed of me. I haven't seen my sister in over 45 years. She just was strictly against it and just didn't want me as a sister, you know? But it's okay. We have came a long way, and we're gonna continue.
I feel like Mom, I don't want to say she went through it worse than Dad did. I just think that people looked at her in a different way. You know, people just thought of her different. I don't think Mom was ever ashamed of us. I think she loved us, but she just didn't know. I don't think she knew what she was signing up for. Meeting a black man stationed over in Germany. I don't think anybody knows what they're signed up for. And I know they went through a lot of stuff. They went through a lot. I used to hear them talk about it, sometimes crying over it, wanting to hide it, don't know if they can make it. It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Looking back, when was the first time you realized, you know what, we're not like the rest of the families?
Our grandmother, Oma, lived in a high rise. It was a couple floors up, and she didn't want the neighbors to see us, my grandmother. So she said to put a blanket over me. So I knew for sure I was different in a lot of ways. Being biracial back then was a big deal. It was different.
With everything that you went through, everything that Mom went through, and receiving that bigotry and hate, why didn't you make it a bigger deal with us children? Why didn't you want us to see that?
Regardless of the things I had to go through, or your mother had to go through, we try to keep you guys safe. And this is what mothers and fathers are doing to their children right now. They're trying to keep them safe. I think about you and hope that when you're out there, that you would be safe. And I hope that we will come back to be strong and start respecting others and spread love around. We need this. We need this.
Wow.
We do need this. I mean, love is what got me through all these years, everything that I've gone through and everything that I will go through. I mean, here you have two people, Mike and Alex. They didn't receive that love, but they were able to show that love. And it's so important for parents to remember today. You may not be seeing that love, but the impact that you have on your children by showing them love and teaching them love will speak volumes down the road.
Oh, just like you started the show with, the power of love.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds like it got you guys through.
Thomas, thank you for that.
We did.
Got to take a break. Coming up.
I don't know how to raise a black child. I don't know what I'm going to do. And my husband said, well, then let's just raise a child.
Sue rejoins us with her husband Billy to talk about how they navigated raising their daughter Nia.
To our race reality, mixed messages. Tonight, we are speaking to members of our Fox 29 family about their experiences in interracial families.
And as we just heard from Thomas, raising a biracial child can present, well, some interesting situations for parents. And Sue is now joined by her husband, Billy. Hi, Billy. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Hey.
Here we are, Ebony and Ivory. I had to stop crying from Thomas's segment.
Me
It was
too.
so beautiful, but I can continue, right? I'll continue the story I told off the top, which was the panic attack I had when I was pregnant with our daughter, and you said the best thing you could have said, and that really is what guided us through the next 20-some years. You said, let's just raise a child.
But you're the one who suggested we name her Nia, which is an African name, which I love because we wanted her to be aware of that part of her history and culture.
Right. So every Kwanzaa, because her name is the 5th day of Kwanzaa, we light the candles and talk about the meaning of her name, which is purpose.
But, you know, it's very interesting, too, because when we were dating, long before Nia was born, Sue and I were hanging out one day, and she was busting on me, like always, making fun of me. And she said, "You hate me, don't you?" And I said, "No, I love you." And it's the first time I had said it, and she was like shocked. And then I said, "Well, don't read anything into that." And she said, "Well, why?" I said, "Because I can't marry you." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I can't marry a white woman." And it's not because I hate white people or have anything against white people. I myself am biracial. I'm half white. My father, my hero, is white. But the thing of it is that, like, I did not know my white grandparents. They would have nothing to do with me and my sister or anyone on the white side of my family. My black family was the one that embraced and loved us. And so my standing in the black community was very important to me. And sometimes you get it from that end, too, when you're in an interracial relationship. Black women feel like you've rejected them. You get people saying, "Oh, you accepted the okie doke. You believe the white woman is the standard of beauty," and all that. And I didn't want to hear all that noise. But I was talking to my mother, who's one of these people. She was the first black dean at Temple University. She's one of those people, every other word out of her mouth is black, black history, black culture, black pride. And I said, "I can't marry a white woman." And she said, "Why not?" And I realized that even though she has that pride in her heritage, she doesn't have any animosity toward other people. And at the same time, I realized I was being hypocritical, because when Sue and I first started dating, I was unemployed. I was broke. I was going through a divorce. My car was in the shop. I was rock bottom, and I called up Sue because I said, when I used to work with Sue Serio at Channel 12, she could always make me laugh, and I need somebody who can make me laugh. And at that time, I didn't care what race she was. And one other thing, too, I realized that going forward in the future, there's going to be times when you hit rock bottom, but I know that this woman would stand by me because she already had.
All right, make me cry again.
Oh, gosh.
So when you have somebody who gives you that kind of love, who has that kind of spirit, you grab onto them, you hang on to them. You don't care about external factors. You don't care what anybody thinks. You hang on to them with both hands. And that's what I've been doing for the last 28 years.
So, yeah, also that's all the baggage we brought into raising our child. And, you know, we didn't want to make race a big thing, but it turned out it entered her life anyway. And we didn't find out till she was presenting a paper all about race. And we had to have those tough discussions.
When she was in college, right?
Yes, she she was presenting a paper in Curacao on race and racism, which she originally intended to be about Curacao, but she put some personal things in it. We found out that she had gone through some stuff in school where, you know, kids made fun of her.
We were naive and thought that in this day and age, she wouldn't really have to choose between being black and white and all that kind of thing, and we were wrong.
You were wrong.
It's still there.
Thanks for sharing your story. I think the two of you are going to work out. Seems to be okay. Thank you both.
Nia's great too.
So
We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Tonight we are speaking to members of our Fox family about their experiences in interracial families.
And one challenge that Shayna has mentioned before that biracial people face quite frequently is being forced to pick a side quite often. And people are asked to choose between races. So Shayna's joining us again to talk more about what that was like for you growing up.
Yeah, I don't know that it's so much that people want you to pick a side as it is people figure that you must. It's a very difficult concept to accept for biracial people as well, in my experience, that you can be a mix of two races, two cultures, and there's so much baggage that has been loaded into race. And you know, every biracial person I have ever met has been asked that question, what are you, time and time again. But it goes beyond that. It's, well, are you more black or are you more white? People have theories on there are certain type of mixed people who if your dad is black, or you're a different type of person than somebody whose mom is black in the relationship. There are all kinds of just crazy theories and ideas out there, and it can be a lot to wade through for kids growing up. And you know, it ends up being this search for identity. And in my experience, I talked to my brother about this a lot as well, and he said it was the same for him. We kind of went back and forth. You know, when you start out, when you're a young person just being raised by your family, you don't think about race at all. You don't, it's just what it is biologically. It's meaningless. And then you go out into the world and you learn how big a deal it is. And you know, I remember the first time someone told me I didn't sound black, and I didn't know what that meant. I was so young at the time, and I thought that's weird. And little things like that, from comments about my hair type to comments from my teachers and my parents' friends. You hear these things all the time, and it starts to inform the identity that you build. So at certain points, I sort of leaned into one side, and I didn't want to be seen as too whitewashed. And then at other points, you know, I felt rejected by a lot of the black community. So I kind of leaned the other way, and there was kind of this growing up process of going back and forth. But you know, wisdom comes with age, and the older I've become, you start to realize that you can be a mix of both. You're not half of anything. You're just who you are with influences from all around you, and race is a big part of that identity.
Do you remember the first time somebody did ask you, what are you? How old were you?
You know what? I can't remember. It is that frequently.
Oh my God.
It's countless times.
Still.
I mean, it's all the time. And it's funny, a lot of times people don't, you know what they mean. Sometimes you answer it with a snarky response because they say, well, what's your nationality? And I say American, or, you know, and, you know, there are all these different questions people will ask, but they're trying to figure out, I think, are you in my group or are you out of my group? Are we similar? Do we have any shared experiences? Do I know how to interact with you? And that's what a lot of us are doing when we first meet people. We're summing them up for those reasons.
Shayna, thank you.
And we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up tonight, we just want to thank our Fox 29 family, Thomas, Sue, and Billy, and Shayna, for sharing your stories with us and being so open with us.
Yeah, for sure. And this has been good. Let's continue to talk about our race reality here on Fox 29. That's just what we're going to do over the next weeks and months. Thanks for being with us.